Did you know that 25 people have received a permanent ban from Major League Baseball in the history of that organization? To receive such a long-lasting punishment, I feel like the crime has to be pretty egregious. Or maybe sometimes you just made an example of, like Tucupita Marcano a year ago when he was caught gambling in games that he was participating in. Sometimes it is for cheating, just cheating off the field, like when Chris Correa, an employee for the St. Louis Cardinals, was caught stealing data on players from the Houston Astros database, which is weird because Chris Correa and Carlos Correa were related. That's not true, but you could tell that lie at a party and I think people would believe it. Also, what parties are you going to where you're talking about this kind of stuff? They sound like fun. You should invite me. Or most famously, it could be conspiring to lose important baseball games for personal gain, like the 1919 Chicago Black Sox. But when words like suspensions or banishment come to mind for baseball specifically, you as a fan probably think of cheating. And when you think of cheating in baseball, you probably think of steroids, performance enchanting drugs. Now, there have been plenty of scandals in this department, like the court hearings in the mid-2000s, the 162 game suspensions for really famous players like Alex Rodriguez and Robinson Cano. But did you know that only one player in MLB history has been banned for life for steroid usage? This is Jenrry Mejia. His career was mostly unremarkable, spending 5 seasons with the New York Mets, pitching to an around league average ERA in roughly 180 innings with the club. At one point, he took over the role of closer and locked up 28 saves in a breakout campaign. But just a year later, Major League Baseball banned him from their league for the rest of his life after his third failed steroid test. This is the story of his odd career, his peculiar suspension, and the potential conspiracy shrouding the entire situation. Jenrry Mejia originally signed with the Mets as an international amateur free agent at age 17, but he didn't first pick up a baseball until he was 15 years old. His story wasn't exactly birthed from a love for the game like many MLB players. In fact, he began playing after seeing how lucrative the game could be for young Dominicans who came from nothing, citing Pedro Martinez's $53 million contract with the Mets as a point of inspiration. Mejia was certainly undersized for a pitcher's typical build, and he even felt sick the day of his showcase. Despite this, he persevered and inked his signing bonus, which certainly was an improvement on the $8 a day he would make shining shoes in Santo Domingo. It didn't take long for Jenrry Mejia to establish himself in the Mets minor league system. As a starting pitcher, Mejia climbed from rookie ball to Double-A in 3 years' time. Darryl Strawberry, a Mets legend, gave Mejia high praise, comparing his potential to that of Mariano Rivera. That very same year, he'd make the Mets opening day roster and make his long-awaited MLB debut at age 20. Mejia pitched to a 3.25 ERA in 30 appearances through mid-June, and the Mets decided that they wanted to give him work as a starting pitcher once they saw his success at such a young age. His starts at the end of the year didn't exactly go well, ballooning his total numbers on the year. After starting the following season in Triple-A, continuing to get stretched out for a spot in the starting rotation, Mejia ended up tearing his ulnar collateral ligament, requiring Tommy John surgery, ending his 2011 campaign, as he went down in April of 2011 and wouldn't resurface for the Mets until September of 2012, nearly 18 months later. Mejia showed flashes of brilliance as a starting pitcher again in 2013, but it became clear quickly that his arm was not durable enough to handle a starting pitching workload, as he dealt with various injuries throughout the season. Finally, after initially getting his call-up 4 years prior, the Mets locked Jenrry Mejia into a relief pitcher role for the 2014 season. And it's honestly hard not to wonder how successful Mejia could have been for the better part of these 4 years had the Mets just let him be a relief pitcher and not tried to meddle with his role so much. It's not like they were short on young starting pitchers anyway. But after going from top prospect to afterthought due to his myriad of injuries, Jenrry Mejia would finally have his proper breakout at age 24 in the 2014 season. For a while to this point, the Mets had struggled to find a reliable closer ever since the days of Billy Wagner long ago. Francisco Rodriguez had a brief pit stop in Queens, Bobby Parnell had shown glimpses of dominance but couldn't stay healthy, with Terry Collins using him so often, and the club also trotted out many veterans past their best days like Frank Francisco, Kyle Farnsworth, and Jose Valverde. Frank Francisco's claim to fame as a Met, "I'm so glad you asked. It was the time that he threw at Jason Worth and the Mets booth literally called him out for being such a POS."
For you folks at home, you hear me all the time say, you know, that wasn't intentional. Well, this one was intentional.
Well, why would Frank Francisco be throwing at Jason Worth?
Because he's a fool. That's why. And that's the silliest thing I've ever seen. You know what that does? gets one of your players hit. Put him up the bat next inning.
After dominating the Yankees in the Subway Series, Jenrry Mejia got his first save opportunity in a 5-2 victory over the Washington Nationals. With virtually no competition, Mejia took over the role outright and locked up 5 saves in a 2-week span to close out the month of May, a month that he began as a member of the starting rotation. This also included a doubleheader against the Arizona Diamondbacks where Mejia pitched the 9th inning twice in one day because Terry Collins is a maniac. In July, Mejia had his most dominant month as a big league pitcher. He allowed just 1 earned run in 11 innings of work, locking up 7 saves along the way. He was quickly becoming an iconic player on the team with his signature Mejia stomp after every successful save. And naturally, with this funny, iconic, and honestly pretty cool celebration, it was 2014, so all of baseball told him to stop having fun. Oh look, there's Terry Collins. Again. Can you guys tell how I feel about Terry Collins? With a budding all-star rotation and Matt Harvey, Noah Syndergaard, Jacob deGrom, and Zach Wheeler, plus the emergence of dominant setup man Jenrry Mejia, the New York Mets had developed a talented young pitching core in the blink of an eye. Though the team fell short of a winning record that year, 2015 looked to be a breakout campaign for this young roster. Jenrry Mejia entered the season as the team's closer on their depth chart and warmed up for his first save of the year on opening day, but during his routine, the spark plug reliever injured his throwing elbow and was unable to enter the game, getting placed on the injured list just days later. This resulted in one of my favorite trivia questions of all time. This one is for you Mets fans. Who got the first save of the 2015 Mets season, a season that ended with a National League pennant? 3, 2, 1. It was Buddy Carlisle. You ever heard of Buddy Carlisle? In what was supposed to be a brief absence, Jenrry Mejia stepped into the closer's role. But 6 days after hitting the injured list, Jenrry Mejia was shockingly suspended by Major League Baseball after testing positive for stanzolol, receiving an 80-game ban for breaking PED protocols. Many of his teammates expressed their disappointment, but his manager Terry Collins was the most candid, saying that the club was, quote, extremely disappointed, saying that the team had huge expectations for the back end of the bullpen being very strong. In the time that Mejia was gone, Mejia fully ran away with the closer's role, pitching to a 1.12 ERA and going 22 for 24 in save opportunities through mid-July, when Jenrry Mejia was finally able to return. Mejia rejoined the team as a middle reliever and pitched well through his first 7 games, including a clutch 10th inning performance that helped the Mets win a crucial extra inning bout with the Los Angeles Dodgers. But before he could even get settled in, Jenrry Mejia was popped yet again. This time he was suspended for a full 162 games after testing positive for stanzolol again, as well as boldenone. That outing against the Dodgers would turn out to be Mejia's final outing as a big leaguer. After missing all of their magic 2015 run to the World Series, the New York Mets showed a sign of good faith by re-signing Jenrry Mejia to a 1-year deal worth $2.4 million for the 2016 season in late January. And Jenrry Mejia responded to that good faith by getting suspended a 3rd time for PEDs just 2 weeks later. Mejia became just the 2nd player in MLB history to get busted for steroids 3 separate times, alongside Neifi Perez. But under new restrictions, this meant that Jenrry Mejia would be banned from the league for life. He joined Pete Rose as the only other player with a permanent ban from Major League Baseball. For at least the next 2 years until he reached eligibility to petition, Jenrry Mejia would not be allowed to pitch in the United States, Mexico, Canada, Korea, or Japan at the competitive level. Truth be told, this story is as sad as it is bizarre. It's one thing to look at his career and wonder, how did this guy become the poster boy for getting banned for PEDs? It's also another thing to wonder, why did Jenrry Mejia feel so compelled to use steroids? Was that initial report of him being undersized still ringing true in his head? Did he feel like his history of untimely arm injuries would be his undoing? Did he feel insecure as a reliever and felt compelled to rejoin the starting rotation? We can't answer any of these questions accurately, but one thing we do know is that Jenrry Mejia did not go quietly into the night. The most we saw on the field of Jenrry Mejia in the ensuing years were his brief appearances in the Dominican Winter League for the Tigres de Licey. But off the field, Mejia continued to proclaim his innocence. In an interview with the New York Times, Mejia claimed that baseball officials told him that if he appealed the punishment for his 2nd offense, that they would find a way to find a 3rd positive. He felt that there was a conspiracy against him. MLB, of course, denied these allegations, and no evidence ever came to light to support Mejia's claims. At one point, Mejia's lawyer threatened to file a massive lawsuit against the league, alleging that they could uncover years of corruption against players within MLB. This lawsuit also never came to fruition. You could probably remove your tinfoil hat because it looks like Mejia and company loaded their gun with blanks. After 2 years on the sidelines, Jenrry Mejia appealed his suspension and was granted readmission to the league after issuing an apology for his mistakes, effectively denouncing his previous claims of conspiracy against him. The Boston Red Sox did give him a shot, signing him to a 1-year contract worth the league minimum in 2019. This also gave us my favorite tweet from a coworker of all time, that coworker being Peter Moylan, who was in utter disbelief that a guy that was suspended from baseball for life got a contract before him that offseason. Jenrry Mejia never took the mound for the Boston Red Sox, but that wasn't the end of the road for him. In fact, Jenrry Mejia is still pitching now in the Mexican League. He's pitched roughly 150 innings over the last 4 years as a reliever for various different teams, and at age 34, he doesn't look to be slowing down anytime soon. But with Jenrry Mejia still pitching this deep into his career, it's hard not to wonder how much more he could have accomplished for the New York Mets in his career.
And ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, that is the story of Jenrry Mejia, a player that never really dreamed of being a baseball player as a kid, who became a team's #1 prospect, who dealt with a myriad of tough arm injuries that would normally end a career, that became a briefly iconic closer with a briefly iconic celebration, all to be remembered infamously for getting suspended 3 separate times for PED usage. It's the type of history in MLB that you don't want to be a part of. It really begs the question of, would you rather be remembered for all the wrong reasons or not remembered at all? Anyways, that'll do it for me on today's video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it and subscribe to the Jolly Olive channel. Next Saturday at noon, there will be another Jolly Olive upload. I'll see you all then. I'll see you guys next time.